And they got the throttle on.
We're at the granddaddy of American street circuits, Long Beach, California, a city that over the 33 history of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach has been transformed from a rundown seaport to a beachside economic success story. Last week, the streets of Las Vegas echoed with horsepower as the Champ Car World Series kicked off its 2007 season. And the checkered flag, Will Power, had KO'd all challengers.
Will Power is the winner.
The 26-year-old Australian was the class of the field all weekend long. Despite Will Power's dominance, there is a grid full of headstrong heroes looking to take him on as Champ Car's best does battle in the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Hello and welcome to sunny Southern California for the second of 3 races on consecutive weekends to commence the 2007 Champ Car season. I'm Jeremy Shaw, joined by my colleague James Hinchcliffe, who finished 7th in this morning's Atlantic Championship race. Hot out of the car, James, and as in Las Vegas last week, all sorts of stories to follow, but not much time. This is a track with a tremendous history.
It absolutely does, Jeremy. We're in our 33rd annual Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Of course, it started with Formula One cars, the first Champ Car race back in '84, won by Mario Andretti, and it's an illustrious place. It's one of the drivers' favorite events. It's a fantastic track, and as always here at Long Beach, which is usually the opening race, race 2 this year, there's been a lot of drama and a lot of action, and let's take a look at some of the things that have already happened this weekend.
Here's the view on Saturday morning. Paul Tracy loses control of his in-deck car coming out of turn 1. But on the power just a little bit too hard. Nose first very heavily into the wall. The car crashed down again. And Paul Tracy suffered a back injury and will not be able to drive this weekend in Long Beach.
I just came out of the corner and just the car spun and hooked to the inside. And I hit the inside wall, pretty much dead square, and the car just came to an abrupt stop and came up off the ground and slammed down on the ground, and it looks like I've got a fractured vertebrae in my back. So I talked to Dr. Pendersky, and you know, he's basically saying, you know, it's 3 months is the healing time on it. So he advised me to go see Dr. Trammell as soon as possible this week, and then try to get on a physical therapy program, and you know, hopefully we can speed that up, but you know, the initial prognosis is about 3 months.
So a great shape for Paul Tracy, who was on really good form at last week in Las Vegas, but what's generally bad news for one driver could be good news for another. And Oriol Survey, who's a great friends with everybody in the Champ Car paddock, who was with us in the commentary booth in Las Vegas 1 week ago, he was invited to step in for Paul Tracy into the number 3 car for this weekend in Long Beach.
I'm good friends with Paul, and as a driver, you don't want any driver, in general, to get hurt. So that's bad. I mean, the good thing is not too bad. I mean, he's going to be okay in a couple of months or so. But for me, it's a huge break. You know, I mean, I've been trying to get a good ride for the all off season. I was actually talking to the Foresight team for a while. We're trying to put something together. It just didn't happen in time. So I'm just really glad they put me in the car, and they trust me that I'll do a good job for them.
And he's had very few laps this weekend, but the good news, James Hinchcliffe, is that he has at least done some pre-season testing.
Yes, he has. He has been in the car in the pre-season testing, and he's been showing very well for not having much practice here in Long Beach. He was very quick in this morning's warm-up, so we'll see how he does in the race.
Let's have a look at this classic street course in Long Beach, California.
We go down the front straight here. It is the famous Shoreline Drive into the first corner, the best passing opportunity, and also a lot of action and accidents. Remember, of course, last year, the big pileup that was talked about all season long. Through the second, third, and fourth corners, the fountain around there, the off-camber turn 5, the uphill turn 6. Now we're through turn 8, jetting down the back straight Seaside Way into turn 9. Another great passing opportunity for these Champ cars. Very, very slippy turn 10 into the famous hairpin. Long Beach is known for it. So important to get the power down coming out of this corner as it gives you the huge run down this long front straight into that good passing opportunity in the first corner.
Yeah, just the scene of so much action, so many success stories over the years. Let's have a look at the starting lineup for today's race. And it was Will Power who set the pace on Friday in qualifying. But, yeah, familiar story. Sebastian Bourdais had a dismal weekend in Las Vegas. Comes back and snares the pole. Will Power alongside Simon Pagenaud. A fabulous run in a second of the Team Australia cars. Alex Tagliani alongside.
Graham Rahal fifth in only his second Champ Car race, and Robert Dornbos coming off a podium last week in Vegas. Justin Wilson again a little disappointed with his qualifying effort, and Bruno Junqueira, three-time Champ Car runner-up outside the fourth row.
Tristan Gomandy in the quickest of the PKV cars will line up on row 5 alongside it Mario Dominguez, who you remember caused a big fracas at the first corner here 1 year ago. Neil Jani in the second PKV car, and Matt Halliday, a very good run for Conquest Racing.
Row 7, Dan Clark on the inside for Team Minardi USA, and Oriol Servia making his Forsyth Racing Champ Car debut. Of course, very experienced driver. Look for him to move up again quick in morning warm-up. The eighth row of the grid, is shared by the Pacific Coast Motorsports team of Ryan Dial and Alex Figge, and then, of course, Catherine Legg all on her own on the last row of the grid.
Yeah, Catherine struggled a little bit this weekend for Dale Coyne Racing. Also had a few mechanical problems as well, but don't forget, she won here in Long Beach herself 2 years ago in Atlantic, the first ever lady to win an Atlantic race. Remarkable achievement for her, and I know she'll be looking for a stronger run this afternoon. Here's that wonderful fountain section here by the Aquarium of Pacific. Kind of single file through this section of track, James Hinchcliffe, but the corner before turn 1, that's where we generally see all the action, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's a wide corner. It's coming off a fast straightaway, and especially at the start of these races, when everybody's bunched up, everybody's eager, you got a full lot of push to pass to use. Look for drivers to be getting on that to try and get a good start. We're using the rolling starts here this weekend, but there's always action and always passing here in the first as we take a replay look at last year.
And Dominguez got into the back of his Forsyth teammate Paul Tracy, also involved there were AJ Allmendinger, Bruno Junqueira, Oriol Servia, and it was incredible. Alex Tagliani, who was so close to behind at those Forsyth cars, somehow snuck through and went on to finish on the podium for Team Australia. Now we've got 2 Team Australia cars, second and third on the grid, and we're getting ready to come up to the green flag on board here with Oriol Servia to carry the onboard cameras there for car number 3, and we're shaping up now, getting ready to go green. It's it is almost a single file start. The green flag is out, the race is on. We're on board with Graham Rahal. The Newman House racing car down towards turn 1, and much cleaner there, but look, a great start by Alex Tagliani, gets around Simon Pagenaud, the best of the rookie drivers, for third place.
Absolutely on board now with Graham around the fountain, up through the gears, now through corner 4. Graham Rahal started, of course, 5th. You see Sebastian lead the field through turn 5, and it looks like, was it Robert Dornbos maybe made a fantastic start to get up there. I could be mistaken there.
I think you might be right. Robert Dornbos, he really struggled. The whole Minardi Team USA team struggled on Friday. They were nowhere. Saturday morning they weren't much better, but he sat down with his race engineer Michael Cannon, did Robert Dornbos, and he came back strong in qualifying. He set a good top 5 time early on and then ran out of fuel, so I had to watch for the last 20 minutes of that session. Slipped back to 7th on the grid, but he has made a very good start, and that is also Alex Tagliani there, who went around Simon Pagenaud at the first corner, and that's kind of ironic, isn't it? Last year, of course, Alex was driving for Team Australia, and here James Hinchcliffe, he's splitting the 2 Team Australia cars, driving now for his former boss, Paul Gentilozzi.
He's doing a fantastic job. I've been really impressed. It's kind of been a rebirth of Alex Tagliani. He struggled a little bit at the Walker team, but since joining Rocket Sports and then the merger between Rocket Sports and Eurosport to form the Eurosport team, a lot of sports in that sentence, but Alex has really been on form, often outperforming so far this year's teammate Justin Wilson, who we're on board with now, and we saw him locking the brakes just a little bit into that first corner as he runs behind Robert Dornbos.
That's right, on board the CDW car of Justin Wilson, the lanky Briton. He's so disappointed with the way this season has begun. He started with high expectations, and then all sorts of political machinations went on with what used to be the Eurosport team, as James was saying, now part of the Rocket Sports organisation as well. Paul Gentilozzi is really overseeing the whole thing, and there is Alex Figge, one of the PCM cars onto pit lane for a change of nose cone in the very early stages of this race. And Alex Figge, he's a local guy. He was brought up really in Southern California. The team is the only California-based team just up the road in Oxnard, California. And Alex Figge actually did a very good job, particularly on Friday. He was knocking on the door of the top 10 in qualifying.
Yeah, they're getting better. They're improving. Obviously, a new team and 2 new drivers to the Champ Car World Series. They are getting a little bit better. And as we look back on the back of Graham Rahal's Medizone number 2, Newman Haas Lanigan Racing, the newly formed team, or new partner in that team for this year.
It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Newman Haas Lanigan Racing, as you say. Michael Lanigan there, the boss of MyJack Cranes, one of the biggest crane companies in the world, in actual fact. And he's he was partnered with Eric Bachelard at Conquest Racing, now joins 2 of the biggest names in the sport in this country, Paul Newman and Carl Haas. And then there's the number 2 car there of Graham Rahal, finished second in last year's Atlantic Championship, but it was a very close second, plus he was the guy who won more races than anybody else, got more poles, led more laps, and now he's got himself a prime ride in the Champ Cars, but he's running behind the guy who beat him to the championship
well,
1 year ago.
I can definitely tell you after talking to Graham Rahal, I'm very frustrated from Las Vegas, but the important thing he wanted to note was that the team isn't forcing him to use settings that Sebastian uses. He says a lot of times when you join a team that has championships and wins, they want you to run what the other drivers are running. Graham said, I've just been thrilled that they are working with me on what I want to set up the car like. Even though I haven't got it totally dialed in, I feel really comfortable with the way they're setting things up.
And that's a really good point that Cameron makes there, is Graham is coming onto a very established team with a very established teammate and 3-time champion Sebastian Bourdais. So the fact that they clearly have faith in Graham's ability. He's proved that not only in the Atlantic Series but also in series test and preseason, as we look at Oriol Survey there, who has moved up a little bit. But it's fantastic that they're willing to work with him and get the car to work to what he likes. I think that's made even easier by the fact that it's a brand new car this year. Really good time for Rahal to be coming into the series.
That's exactly right. Of course, out on the first lap 1 week ago, and this weekend in Long Beach, he struggled, particularly on Friday, all sorts of gear shift problems. But as you say, now running in the top 5, and there's Oriol Survey there. A glance of the number 3 car, Oriol taken over from Paul Tracy, who wrecked on Saturday morning. This is the same chassis that PT crashed. In fact, there was very little damage to the car. It just concertinaed the nose cone up exactly as it should have done, but unfortunately Paul was injured in that shunt.
I was a little wondering or worried about what the setup would feel to me. He said, I was amazed, as you guys said, it was pretty much right on. We have not turned a screw on this car for me. It's really me getting more comfortable. The one thing they're interested in, the pit stops. They practiced them all morning today in warm-ups because on his first try, he overshot the pits by 3 feet. So they're going to pay attention to those today during the race as well.
Yeah, thanks, Morgan. So from the pit lane, and Oriol Survey just settling very, very quickly here. And it's a tough place to come in. You haven't driven the car for a few weeks. You certainly weren't expecting to drive the car this weekend. So you've got to play yourself in, particularly on a racetrack like this, James, where there's no room for error at all.
There really is none at all, like you say, and he's doing a fantastic job. I mean, we're looking at the battle here between Alex Tagliani and Simone Pagenaud, but for him to just hop into a race car, like you say, it's been months, I think, actually, since he's been in the car, and it's good to see that he was able to jump in, fit right into the settings Paul had on the car. This kind of made his job that much easier, and he's doing very well now. He's up to 13th. Running relatively competitive lap times as well, so he's just settling in, and I really expect him to get quicker and quicker as this race goes on, because it's just laps under the belt for him.
Exactly right, and I know Oriol expects to get quicker and quicker and quicker as well. There is a clutch. There is Alex Tagliani turning into the hairpin in 3rd place already. You can see the gap there between the first car. There is Power in 2nd place. Here is Tagliani. Right behind Tagliani is Simon Pagenaud in the 2nd Team Australia cars. Then Graham Rahal, Robert Dornbos, Justin Wilson up into 7th place, ahead of Bruno Junqueira and Tristan Gomondi for PKV Racing, and then Mario Dominguez running out the top 10. And Mario's struggled a little bit this weekend, certainly not going to the same sort of pace he was looking for.
No, absolutely, nor that of what Paul was showing before his accident on Saturday. So I think Mario's still coming into grips with the car, and he only just rejoined Foresight Championship Racing right before the first race in Las Vegas. He had no testing with that team before the season got underway, so he's still learning a few things, and I know he's raced with the team before, but the team dynamics changed a little bit. A few people have come in, a few people have left, so but Mario's doing a relatively good job, but he certainly needs to kind of pick up the pace in the near future if he wants to be running at the front.
5 laps completed here in Long Beach. So we are on lap 6 now of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, the 33rd running of this classic event, and you can see a great crowd on hand. They've had a lot of people here on Friday and Saturday. Certainly no doubt about it, the crowd figures have been up over the last few years, and last year was almost a record number here in Long Beach. There's tremendous enthusiasm. The weather conditions have been absolutely perfect. Actually, it's a little bit windy now, a little bit cooler than yesterday, but really perfect racing conditions, James.
It's been fantastic. I mean, like you say, it's not been too hot or humid, so it's very comfortable inside the cockpit. This morning in the Atlantic race, it really wasn't an issue in terms of the heat. Certainly not as hot as we even had last week in Las Vegas. So very comfortable driving conditions. The air is cool enough that the engines can make a lot of power, but the track is warm enough that these tires can work and get some grip in this racetrack.
Yes, indeed. There is a look at the McDonald's car of Newman Haas Racing, a very familiar sight, isn't it? The number 1 car out in front. He's won 3 consecutive championships, don't forget, and that was a history equaling performance, matching the feat of Ted Horn back in the 1940s. And Sebastian Bourdais wants to become the first man to win four consecutive Champ Car World Series titles. And he's certainly looking good this afternoon, and coming off just a dreadful weekend in Las Vegas where he crashed in qualifying and crashed in the race as well. Most unlike Sebastian Bourdais.
It was very uncharacteristic of Sebastian, although we have seen him have days like that before. I think back to Surfer's Paradise last year, where he actually clinched his 3rd championship, did not exactly have the most stellar weekend, and although he is running at the front, willpower has been just a touch quicker in terms of the fastest lap of the race. It's a little bit over a 10th, and so perhaps later in this race we're going to see...
This is exactly the kind of run that Sebastian Bourdais and his team wanted here this weekend. Of course, last weekend we talked a lot about all the problems they had. They were scheduled to test in Phoenix on Monday. They had their travel all set, they were ready to go, and then they realized they had no cars to test. They were all damaged last week in Las Vegas, so instead of testing cars, they were repairing them.
Never something a team likes to do when a test is planned, have to repair cars instead, but sometimes that's the way racing goes, and when you have 3 back-to-back-to-back races starting the season, you have to not expect, but you got to plan for that. That is likely to happen in some of these street courses.
Get on board here with Oriol Servian. It was really nice to have him in the booth here with us last week when you had to disappear and go do the Atlantic race, James. And I think Oriol had some great insights for us towards the end of that race. And we talked then about how we hoped he would be back in a champ car as soon as possible. What we didn't hope that it would be PT we was trying for. Let's go around on board with Oriol Servian, James.
Okay, we're coming out of the hairpin now, up through the gears. Like I said before in the last race in Vegas, you do not see the driver's hand leaving to do gear shifts anymore. It's all done through the paddle shift. As we see Mario Dominguez in the wall, it looks like that was turn 9, end of the back straight, and he has seemed to hit those tires very hard. That isn't turn 9. Heading into turn 10 there, you can see through this parking lot section, we will be going full course caution for this, Jeremy. Here's a replay.
Yes, there's whoa, there goes Bruno Junqueira came through the corner, okay, and Mario just appeared to lose it under braking. He was going sideways and backwards even before the apex.
Frighteningly reminiscent of a practice crash that my teammate at Forsyth Atlantic Championship Racing last year, Andreas Wirth, had in that very corner. There's actually 2 very large bumps entering turn 9, and it's very easy for the car to get unsettled under braking there, so just a tiny mistake for Mario if his car was just slightly positioned offline. Very easy for happen, unfortunate for him, but now the field's closed up and we got to look forward to a restart, and that could spell trouble or excitement, or both, who knows?
Or both, we'll have to wait and see on that one. And it's the first full course caution of the day. 8 laps in the books here at the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, and we'll get back to green flag action very soon. But right now, it's Sebastian Bourdais out in front.
Yeah, the Hamaltro safety team did a fantastic job cleaning up that accident quickly. Did not spend too much time under caution. And the lights are off on the Toyota safety car, which means we are going back to green this time by.
Now, we talked about it a little while, just as they came up to take the full course yellows there. The leaders did not make a pit stop, and it will be Sebastian Bourdais who leads them out of the hairpin. They're trailing through in front of our booth here. Absolutely nose to tail coming through the corner, and there goes Bourdais. A brilliant start. Will Power, however, was caught out, and Tagliani gets the jump. Let's look down to turn 1, and Tagliani there, I don't know whether was he blocking there or was Power already moving to the other side of the racetrack, but there down to the inside is Graham Rahal under extreme pressure from Robert Dornbos, and just holds him off.
Yeah, it looks like Robert got a good enough of a run to have to pull out to the outside of, so of course Graham not allowed to block in the Champ Car World Series. I don't think he did that. I think the run off the hairpin that Robert got was so good he had to pull out before before Graham had moved on to line. So everything back there stays the same, but Alex Tagliani was able to get by Will Power. A great run off the hairpin from him.
And Alex Tagliani really is on form, and he's so much enjoying working with Justin Wilson. The last few years, he's really worked with rookie drivers, first of all at Rocket Sports, and then the last 2 years at Team Australia, and now working with an experienced veteran driver like Justin Wilson. They're able to pool their resources as far as the technical team is concerned, the race engineers, and he's making full use of that. He's really improved the car, and Tagliani is absolutely delighted with the way his car has been working.
And Justin Wilson really hasn't been able to match his pace as we ride on board with the number 9 CMW car right now as he climbs up through the gears down Shoreline Drive. And it's unfortunate, like you say early at the top of the show, that Justin really hasn't been able to get on the pace that he was hoping. Big hopes coming into the season with a brand new car, maybe erasing some of the advantage of the Newman-Haas-Lanigan team, but he really has not been able to match Alex's pace. So he's struggling right now, a little frustrated as we take a look at the restart here. And this is Dornbos going on the outside of the Metazone car into the brake zone, just couldn't get it done.
I think, yes, and I don't think there was a blocking maneuver there, because as you said a little while ago, Dornbos was already sort of poking his nose alongside on the outside as they came around that curving part there of Shoreline Drive.
You know, it's tough. Now that I've seen that replay, he didn't pull out as early as I thought he had originally. So, interesting. I mean, I'm sure Champ Car are looking at it, and they'll make the right call. Tony Cotman's a very sharp guy and very fair, very straight, but very fair.
Yeah, so I think he handed out a couple of warnings in Las Vegas last weekend, the first race of the season, but Graham Rahal, you know, he's been racing in the Atlantic Championship last year. He certainly knows the rules. He knows that the rules are the same in Atlantic as in Champ Car, and he knows you're not allowed to deviate from the racing line. And we talked about this many times.
Guys checked in with Derek Walker, the team owner for Will Power. You see there in the number 5 car tooling around the racetrack. The strategy for them today, as it will be with many teams, try and make this a 2-stop race. Stretch out that fuel as long as you can. As Derek told me, the key today will be how fast can you run a lap and save fuel at the same time.
Yeah, thanks. And that's certainly going to be a key aspect of this race, because it's a 1 hour and 40-minute race. Michelle Beisner is down on pit lane with Cristiano D'Amato. We're trying to get down there in just a moment or two. But at the moment, as we've heard there from the pit lane, the drivers are just trying to save fuel, making sure that they can get to the finish on just 2 pit stops this afternoon and not have to come in for a splash in the late stages. So right now, the drivers are keeping one eye on their fuel consumption. The way they do that is that when they get towards the end of the straight, they actually lift off the throttle just a little bit early and literally let the car coast in towards the braking area, and then get on the brakes hard at the very last minute, get the car turned in, and try and feather in the throttle.
I mean, he's just a flatliner, never gets excited. Same sentiment. I asked him, what was his last week like after that first big victory? He said, I can't believe how many interview requests I got from back in Australia. Every time I turned around, my cell phone was ringing.
That does happen when you win your first Champ Car race, so no doubt Will enjoying this. Down to Michelle in the pits.
Somebody that we're very happy to see roaming the pits is Cristiano D'Amato, who suffered a season-ending injury last year, but you look fantastic. Tell me, how are you feeling?
I feel I'm ready to go back to the race car. Of course, I'm in touch with my doctors all the time, and I've been in touch with them. Of course, I try to be as fortunate as I can. I think I've already been fortunate to recover so quick from the whole thing. But one thing I keep on thinking right now is, like, they allowed me to ride my mountain bike, so the race car cannot be too far away. You know, that must be close.
I like that answer. Thanks a lot, guys. Back to you.
Yeah, certainly great to hear him. He's such an upbeat character, and you know, to think of him lying there in a coma in that hospital in Neenah, Wisconsin for 4 or 5 weeks after his crash at Road America. He hit a deer during a test session, just a real freak crash, and it's wonderful to see him now up and around and talking about getting back into a race car again. And he says he's got lots of offers to get back into a race car, just to do some laps in Brazil in Formula 3 or stock cars or whatever. But he's a sensible young man, and he's going to wait until he gets the go-ahead from the doctors. So back to Long Beach, California. Lap 15 is in the books. It's still Sebastian Bourdais out in front, and Alex Tagliani, Will Power and Simon Pagenaud. And then this man, Graham Rahal, running in 5th place, the rookie driver, still just 18 years of age. He's still on his spring break from high school. It's his final year of high school. He goes to school in New Albany, Ohio, where he lives, of course, with his dad, Bobby. And he's just done a super job this weekend. Also some mechanical glitches in the early part of the weekend. He couldn't get the gear shift working properly on that number 2 Medizone car. It's come around, and Graham Rahal is turning a very good early pace here.
He's doing a fantastic job right now as he heads through the slippery turn 10 section, and certainly in stark contrast to his weekend just 7 days ago in Las Vegas, where he was out before he even took the green flag, to be honest. He had made contact with the wall coming out of the last corner, coming up to the start of the race, but right now doing an absolutely phenomenal job chasing down last year's championship rival for the Atlantic Championship, Simone Pagenaud. And as you head into the brake zone, you look here, Graham very, very good on the brakes, using a lot of curve in the first corner. Very smooth on the hands is Graham Rahal, and that's really important in these very high horsepower champ cars. You can see he's on the red sidewall, Bridgestone tires as he heads through corner 4. Again, a lot of curve there. Now, the curves here you can't get too much on. It's a heavy off-camber corner, a little bit of oversteer. You can see his hands working there as he gets on the power. Now we're going to head down into turn 6. It's a downhill brake zone into an uphill exit. Often a big understeer. Graham looks like his car's handling very well right now. So down into turn 8 and onto the back straight. He's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, he certainly is, and still a long, long way to go in this race, and he's just settling into a pace. His race in Las Vegas was over really before it began. Just one lap into the race, and the first lap was run under yellow, as you'll remember, and then he hit the wall, well, within a few yards of the start-finish line, so that was not the way he wanted to start the season, but he really is driving a heads-up race this afternoon. I'm sure he's just content there to sit in line, look after the car, and save a little bit of fuel. Another good point there. Here is this battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th places. Tagliani, Power, Pagenaud, Rahal, Dornbusch and Justin Wilson are in 7th place, but it's still Sebastian Bourdais. He's well out in front. It's still Will Power has set the fastest lap of the race thus far, a 1 minute 10.026. That compares to Sebastian Bourdais' pole time of 107.5, so 2.5 seconds slower. But again, they're looking after the cars in the early stages and trying to make sure they don't use too much fuel.
Saving a bit of fuel, and on top of that, the cars are very, very heavy. Where in qualifying, you run them quite light. They'll be on full tanks right now, just minus the however many laps, the 21 laps that we've done thus far. Again, on board with Graham Rahal. Like you said, he's caught up to these 2 Team Australia cars. His lap times are a tiny bit quicker right now. They were a bit closer on that last lap, but all the leaders seem to be on the red sidewall Bridgestone tires, so that kind of takes that element out of the equation. They'll all be pitting and putting the black sidewall tires on when they get out or when they come in for their first stops, but it's kind of early in the race to take too many risks. We'll see what Graham can do with this situation.
Yeah, you're right, and there is a long way to go, but we've got 21 laps in the books there, so probably about 2/3 of the way through their first fuel stint. I think we can expect to see the leaders onto pit lane maybe somewhere between lap 28 and lap 30 with those couple of laps of caution we've had already. Generally you can do maybe 27, 28, 29 laps, maybe a couple more than that, 31, maybe 32 if they manage to save a good bit of fuel, and then after that I think they'll be able to go pretty much flat out to the end of the race. But certainly this man, he hasn't used any of his Cosworth power to pass yet. Sebastian Bourdais have 60 seconds worth to use in this race. Sebastian has used absolutely 0 of it, and he's also just done his best lap of the race, a 1 minute 10.040 compared to Power's 1 minute 10.026. And so Bourdais is stretching out that lead over Alex Tagliani in 2nd place. So about a little bit over 5 seconds now, and Sebastian Bourdais out in front here in Long Beach. Getting closer and closer to the first round of pit stops, and Sebastian Bourdais, he'll have been saving fuel as much as he could in the early stages, and now perhaps he's got a comfortable lead already, and knowing Sebastian, he's going to push a little bit harder now his last 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 laps before coming into the pit lane, just to give himself more of a margin, and then he can make that first pit stop and have really no pressure on the crew.
It's shocking that he's saving fuel and is still this much quicker than everybody. I mean, his pace right now is about half a second a lap faster, and he's just on the fastest lap of the race at a 1:09.9. So you're very right, Jeremy. He's now put the hammer down. He's hit his fuel numbers. The team has told him, you've saved all you need to save. It's probably going to be 3-4 laps before they pit for the first time. So all he needs to do now is build that gap up, put the hammer down, and show everybody just how dominant this car is right now.
And that call on the radio is exactly what he wanted, was it? No driver likes to be out there trying to save fuel. They just want to go as fast as they can and just show their superiority. We've seen it so often from Sebastian Bourdais 23 wins, 26 poles now in just 61 starts. It's an incredible record he has.
It's shocking, really. I mean, this guy truly is a champion among champions, and he's now 3-time consecutive champion of the Champ Car World Series, going for 4 in a row. Be the first man and only man in history to have done that. Looks like he ran a little bit wide there coming out of turn 9. You can definitely see that he is pushing this Newman Haas Lanigan racing car. Look how much he's got to turn that steering wheel to get these Champ cars around that hairpin. It is not an easy thing to do, despite the corner only being 27 miles an hour.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's certainly one of the slowest corners on the entire Champ Car season schedule, but he makes it look easy. I was watching yesterday and right now looking out the window occasionally when I do. He carries so much speed through turn 10 and then turns it into that hairpin with, I'd say, it's noticeably quicker. It's probably only a mile an hour more perhaps than the other guys, but it's very, very smooth and very, very effective and very, very fast.
He certainly has the technique down. Of course, he's won here in the past. Last year, dominated in a very similar fashion to what he's doing right now. Of course, he was helped out by the fact that 4 of the front runners were eliminated in that first corner melee. As we look now at Will Power running in the 3rd position. Will obviously won the first race in Vegas, so very strong car this year, and he's in the right mindset to challenge Sebastian for the championship. And if things finish as they were, he would still be the championship leader, because Sebastian did not finish the first race. So Will's still looking good. He's got to think points, but he also wants to get as high up in this order as he can. As we onboard one more time with Graham Rahal through 10, and just watch his hands through this hairpin. As you can see, grabs the bottom of the wheel all the way down, almost a full rotation in that steering wheel. Then, of course, he's got to get his hands back on it in time to grab those gears as he goes up. 750 horsepower through this Cosworth XFE going through that 7-gear box, Jeremy.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's the point there. You've got feeding 750 horsepower through the road, and it comes on pretty strong, doesn't it? I mean, you turn that, you've got that steering wheel cranked all the way over, you're feeding the throttle in, and the car just wants to snap sideways on you unless you have to be really in tune with everything at that point on the racetrack. No relaxation whatsoever there.
Yeah, it's shocking how a corner so slow can catch people off so easily, and Graham Rahal doing a very fantastic job right now. He's definitely keeping those Team Australia cars in sight. Oh, a little bit of rear lockup. He runs wide there. He should be okay. He's certainly going to lose a little bit of time, probably half a second, maybe 7/10. And look, we see an attempt for a pass. Robert Dornbos smelling blood.
He was indeed. He tore his opportunity there, but not quite close enough to take advantage with Robert Dornbos. He's doing well in his early stages, as Robert, as I said, he struggled just massively on Friday. Both he and his teammate Dan Clark right down to the bottom end of the charts, but now Dornbos is one of the quickest cars out there.
And he is close now. He's certainly got a sniff of Rahal. He's going to try and get a good power down. Rahal too strong off that hairpin. It's not going to look like he's got a chance on this particular lap.
Well, the one thing Robert Dornbos has been struggling with the most here in Champ Car is fuel conservation. And in fact, in yesterday's qualifying session, he ran out of fuel and had to sit and watch more than half the session. Good news for him was his 6th starting position held up all the way through that session that he earned earlier in the day.
Yeah, it was a great effort by Robert in that session. Very likeable young man. He's here with his manager, actually, also sort of overseer, mentor, if you like, Christian Geisdorfer, which is a name that some of you might be familiar. Christian Geisdorfer was the co-driver for the World Rally Champion Walter Roll back quite a few years ago, late 70s, early 80s. It's great to see Christian here in the paddock this weekend. Of course, the former driver, Walter Roll, he won here on the streets of Long Beach in a Trans Am car back in the early 80s as well. As we look back at Justin Wilson, the CDW car of the Eurosport team, the red and white colours there, with a bit of orange in that car as well. But I'm talking about red and orange, it's all about this man, isn't it? Sebastian Bourdais, another fastest lap last time around, 1 minute 9.736, getting quicker and quicker. And again, about half a second quicker than anybody else on that lap. The other guys, no one else has got below 1 minute 10 seconds. A couple got fairly close. Bill Stevens with Craig Hampson, the race engineer for Sebastian Bourdais.
Down here with Craig Hampson, crew chief for Sebastian Bourdais. The chess game has begun with fuel management. How are you guys going to play it today?
Well, right now we're actually just kind of cruising. He's making outstanding mileage. We're a few laps away from our first pit stop, but kind of a walk in the park so far. I'm sure it'll get exciting a little later on, but good mileage, car's good, we're pretty happy.
If it stays green like this, 2 pit stops?
Absolutely.
So Newman House Racing just had a tremendous amount of success here on the streets of Long Beach. Going back to the very beginning of this race, Mario Andretti, he raced here in Formula One, and when the champ cars came here in 1984, it was Mario for Newman House Racing who came out on top of the pack. And he won also in 1985 and 1987 did Mario Andretti. So he's had just a tremendous amount of success here. Sebastian Bourdais has won the last 2 years as well. And Cristiano Di Mara, they won 7 championships in all, have Newman House Racing, as you can see there on that graphic. But enormous success here as well.
Giving the orders to both Will Power and Simone Pagenaud. You can go as hard as you want now. Fuel is not a problem. 3 more laps until these guys pit. So in theory, we should see some of the top 4 cars pit all at the same time.
So there is Sebastian Bourdais. We're expecting pit stops very, very quickly. Actually, I think Catherine Legg perhaps just pulled onto pit lane. She is the first of the drivers onto pit lane for a sort of scheduled stop here after 28 laps. And she was running in 13th place when she came in. And there are this is again this battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. Alex Tagliani, and then Will Power and Simon Pagenaud, and Graham Rahal right in behind them as well.
Now, if these cars all pit together, it's going to be battle of the pit stops.
I just spoke with Paul Tracy's mother, who is still here, and she let me know that Paul is back at home in Las Vegas. He is resting comfortably, and that he woke up this morning and didn't even feel the need to take any of his painkillers. So who knows? We may see him back a lot sooner than expected.
Well, that was certainly great news. Vivian Tracy, she's just a wonderful character in her own right. She comes to most of the races, and Robert Dornbos is preparing to make a pit stop. There is Alex Tagliani. Those similar colours in that LXN2 car of the Eurosports team. Alex Tagliani's got himself up from 4th on the grid into 2nd place. And we're getting ready now for the leaders to come onto pit lane, I'm sure with another lap or 2, but 29 laps complete. Now that is Robert Dornbos, who pulled out of 6th place onto pit lane. Scheduled service for the Minardi Team USA guys. Look, a little bit of a long stop there. Most of the guys, as you remember, last year there was some problems with the refueling systems on these cars. I think most of those have been stalled, and I think we hear from the pit lane that Robert actually stalled the car. They had to refire it at the back end. Marty Snyder is in the pit lane waiting for our race leaders, but watching out of the booth, and there goes Sebastian Bourdais. Does not come in this time. He's actually coming up to lap Catherine Legg as he goes down Shoreline Drive, and behind the battle for 2nd place comes out of the pit lane. And anybody peeling in here? No, yes there is. 2 guys come onto pit lane. Here is Simon Pagenaud and Graham Rahal, the 4th and 5th place cars onto pit lane for their first scheduled stop down the pit lane.
Team Australia pitting together, guys. They will come down pit road, and Rob Edwards reminded them to take things as slowly as they could and be patient here on pit road. Actually, coming first will be Simone Pagenaud to pit road. They will get all the fuel in. He wanted no changes to the chassis. Here's what you were talking about, Jan. Being patient, waiting for the fuel to fill up, gets it full, 4 new tires, they get off pit road.
Well, that was Marty, who was actually in the Team Australia pit there for Simon Pagenaud. Well, we were on board with Graham Rahal, so quite synced up there. But as you can see, a good stop for Newman House Racing and Graham Rahal. That, of course, is his first official pit stop in Champ Car competition. He's made a few in sports cars. He's done the Daytona 24 hours and the 12 hours of Sebring, has young Graham Rahal. But that was his first Champ Car pit stop, and it looked like a pretty good one, James, as we watch out there to see whether Sebastian Bourdais pulls in this time. And I don't think he did he?
He does not. He's caught a bit of traffic, but I think it's Matt Halliday's let him go by. Very good sport there. He really can't get held up. It's an important part of the race for Sebastian, although with the lead he had, it's not as crucial. So very good start from the Newman Haas Lanigan guys, but still not quite as good as the Walker guys, who's not able to get him out in front of Simone Pagenaud, and I think might have actually managed to gain a bit of time. Here's Tagliani in the pits.
And a big change to the front wing on that car. That was Tom Howard, who had Marty Snyder with.
And guys, when they asked Will Power about the chassis, he had 0 response, meaning he thinks the chassis is just fine, but he's got to pick up some time to beat Bourdais. Clearly waiting on the fuel, once again making sure it is completely full, and he leaves pit road.
A good stop, I think, for Team Australia. They're not able to beat Alex Tagliani out of the pit lane. They resume in the same way they started, and those guys are able to do one more lap than the other contenders before them, people like Robert Dornbos and Graham Rahal and Simon Pagenaud, so that would stand them in good stead. But still, our race leader, Sebastian Bourdais, he was out there running in front, pulling away, saving fuel, and as you see, he's done a couple more laps than most of the contenders. Now, finally, Sebas pulls onto pit lane. And Bill Snyder is down there in the Newman House Racing pit, ready for Sebastian's first stop of the afternoon.
The McDonald's team doing their thing. They were concerned about their pit position. They're only 3 spots away from pit in. A lot of contact here when things get crazy, but so far they are clean and mean. Scuffed set of primer Bridgestones, replace the red sidewalls, and he gets away with a full fuel cell of methanol.
And did you see a glimpse of Mike Hargraves on the back of the Airjack guy, just pushing that car away? Just every last ounce of enthusiasm for that whole Newman House team to get Seabass on his way out of the pit lane. Again, another flawless stop for Newman House Racing, it would appear. And good to see thus far this afternoon, I hope not tempting fate, but those fuel system problems we saw in Las Vegas seem now to be a thing of the past.
Fingers crossed, Jeremy. I mean, pretty much every driver you spoke to lost the race in Vegas because of a problem with the fueling rig, so they seem to have got that sorted. Sebastian Bourdais back out in front here in Long Beach.
So here are, there is Aurel Servia driving the car number 3 in place of the injured Paul Tracy, and Servia is running now in the lead actually, because he stopped out of sequence with everybody else. I was looking up and down the order, I couldn't see him. Didn't look high enough. I forgot, of course, he came in very early in the proceedings. He was one of about half a dozen guys to come onto pit lane in the early stages, and as a result, it's Aurel Servia out in front, and that's great to see. Again, he's running a very, very good pace, is Aurel Servia. His best lap time actually was a 1:09.646 last time around, and 1:09.575 that time. The second fastest lap of the race set by Aurel Servia, and he's only had about 25 laps in this car before the race.
He's doing a fantastic job. Of course, he's subbing for the injured Paul Tracy. Paul had the 8th longest consecutive starting streak until Mexico 6. He finally missed a race, tried to start it all over again, but he'll be missing this one as well. And it's such a recent thing that if you look on the nose of this Forsyth Championship racing car, you can still see the maple leaf from Paul's native Canada, and that's how quick this change was. It was Saturday morning they put him in the car.
And you talk about that maple leaf there right on the nose of the car. Maybe because you see it, yeah, you can see that red maple leaf as he turns into the corner. And I saw this nose cone when it came off the car yesterday, and that whole front of the nose was scrunched up all the way across that maple leaf sticker. About 6 inches of crushable structure on the nose of that car. So it's Aurel Servia, car number 3, the index car for Forsyth Championship Racing. Jerry Forsyth out in front of the race. Aurel just doing a remarkable job. Great to see. Neil Jani is, you can see in the background there, the Red Bull car of the Swiss driver in second place. About 2 and a little bit over, just under 3, just over 3 seconds this time around as he comes past, because another very quick lap from Aurel Servia, a 1:09.460. That's just 1/10 of a second slower than the best lap this afternoon set by Sebastian Bourdais. That was on lap 28, just before his first pit stop. But Aurel now, of course, he's on low tanks. He's about to get ready for his first full pit stop of the afternoon, and Aurel taking full advantage of the lightness of this car. The tyres still working very well indeed, and as you can see, he's on the black sidewall tyres, so the harder compound tyres, and Aurel is really putting the hammer down and using his experience, getting ready to make his next pit stop.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be as much disparity between the black and the red sidewall tires as we've seen in other tracks in the past, and so Aurel on the black sidewall tires, which he would have taken on that first pit stop that he took during the full course caution we had, running a very, very good pace. And it doesn't matter who you are, how many laps you've had in this weekend, and how much time you've had in this car, he is doing a phenomenal job. And this strategy is really going to help him because he's running blisteringly quick times up at the front, and he's not going to have to take as much fuel for his second stop. So although it's kind of a 3-stop strategy for him now, it may just move him up the list. He was 13th before this first set of pit stops. Now he's leading. We'll see where he comes out. We're expecting him to come in about lap 39-ish. It's lap 35 right now, and we see Dan Clark in one of the runoffs.
There is the second-year driver from England, from Yorkshire, Mexborough, Yorkshire, is Dan Clark. He had a disappointing weekend in Las Vegas 1 week ago. He was running pretty quickly in the early stages of the race, but then got a bit carried away, put it in the wall. That was the end of his afternoon. Quite sure what's happened to here, but he's certainly beckoning there to the Holmatro safety team to get him back out and maybe get back into the fray. But I think just gone down one of the escape roads here. Not quite sure where he is on the racetrack, but it's just a local yellow there in turn 9. Just skated on down the escape road, so he'll lose at least a lap there. In the meantime, it's Aurel Servia out in front and churning out these very, very quick laps. Another one last time was a 1:09.8. We'll see as he comes across the line this time. It's a 1:09.8. 9.79, so just a thousandth of a second, a couple of thousandths quicker, and about 3/10 slower than his best lap. But that compares to Sebastian Bourdais, who is running, of course, on a full tank of fuel at 1 minute 10.4, so 3/4 of a second. Oriol pulled out that lap. The gap from Oriol in first place to Bourdais in fourth, with Neil Jani and Tristan Gommedy on the same strategy as Oriol Servia. The gap, though, from first to fourth is about 26 seconds, and I would hazard a guess that when Oriol comes in, makes this pit stop and gets back out in the fray, once Jani and Gommedy also have been on pit lane, I reckon Oriol might find himself in second place, James.
You know, it's close. It is a bit of a long pit lane here in Long Beach after the first grid box ends. There's still quite a ways to go before they're allowed to take off their pit lane speed limiters, but even still, certainly in the top 5, it's very, very possible right now.
He certainly is, and he's on a slightly different pit stop strategy, so he might be able to get away with taking just a little bit less fuel than the other contenders did. They'll be working out their fuel consumption down in the pit lane. The engineers will be crunching the numbers and see if they can get him just a little bit less fuel, get him out a little bit quicker, and he can come out ahead of this huge train of cars. And there is Justin Wilson, who's a big beneficiary in that first round of pit stops, as we hear Oriol Servia has been told to come into the pit lane this time around. But look at that, Justin Wilson, a great first pit stop apparently by the Eurosport team. He vaulted from sixth place, seventh, wasn't it, all the way up now into right behind his teammate Alex Tagliani. Tremendous work.
And essentially, Alex Tagliani is running second in this motor race behind Sebastian Bourdais, the leader before the pit stops, and that's just a fantastic result for him now. And he seems to really like these black sidewall Bridgestone tires, a slightly harder compound as we ride on board the number 9 CDW car heading down Shoreline Drive. He likes the harder compound. It suits his style better. It gives him a better balance in his race car. That's the same amount of grip relative front to rear. So when he turns in, the car's got a very nice, it feels like it's on rails. When he turns in, the front wheels go where they want and the back follows nicely. Looking at a replay here, Sebastian Bourdais maybe not so much.
Yes, that was it.
Pit stop replay.
It was a fabulous pit stop.
That was lightning quick. Not quite sure what we're getting at here. And Oriol Servia in the pits.
Yes, here he is. So this will be his second stop of the afternoon, and Marty Snyder is in the Forsyth Championship Racing pit, ready for Oriol Servia, who's just leading the race. Let's see where he comes out.
Wally, as we talked about Oriol Servia to pit road, he said he did not want changes to the car. They're trying to hold him here. This is the patience part we talked about earlier. Oriol not used to these new type of pit stops, having to hold him on pit road, wanted no changes to the chassis, even though at the end he had a significant amount of understeer, decided to make no changes to the front wing. With 4 new tires, he's back on the racetrack.
But that was a massively quick stop there.
He was flying, Wally, wasn't he? Yeah, he was really moving.
And Marty is talking actually to Wally Dallenbach, who's calling the race. Wally Dallenbach Jr. is calling the race for the domestic show here in the United States. But it was a very quick stop, and Oriol's got himself out in second place, effectively on the road. Once Gommedy and Jani come onto pit lane, he's well ahead of that train of cars led by Alex Tagliani and Justin Wilson. I'm sure in a moment or two, as he's desperately trying to get some heat in the tires, James, you'll see how close those 2 R-Sports cars are behind him. Meanwhile, this is Tristan Gommedy, and he is now leading the race for the first time in his Champ Car career, and he pulls off into pit lane for PKV Racing. So good to see PKV. Yeah, they will be credited with leading that lap.
Unbelievably impressive from FCR. Forsyth Championship Racing did a great call on pulling Oriol in, and they have got him out second in this motor race. From 13 to second, all it took was a short trip to pit lane early in the race. So fantastic work from those guys. I know Oriol's happy. He's going to be scrubbing those tires, trying to get heat into those black sidewall Bridgestones. Of course, no tire warmers allowed in the Champ Car World Series, and they are stacked up behind Oriol now. An entire line of cars with hot tires now behind Oriol. Of course, he came out in front of them on cold tires. It's close. Alex Tagliani on the push to pass. Oriol Servia on the push to pass. Side by side heading in the first corner. Alex on the outside. Justin looking to go with him, but Oriol has the inside line. Everybody makes it through. This is good racing.
It certainly is. Was that a defensive line there taken by Oriol Servia? We'll have to see what race control says. But you know, the racing line, as you come out of Shoreline Drive there, you have to kind of, drift across to the left-hand side of the road, coming out of that long sweeping right-hander, which is taken flat out at about 175 miles an hour. We get up to about 180 or so before braking for turn 1. And there is Oriol Servies able to maintain that advantage just over Alex Tagliani and Justin Wilson. And as you said, it was great strategy by that number 3 team. It's Brandon Fry, who is the race engineer for that car. Brandon, of course, last year worked with the Roche-France Rookie of the Year, Will Power, at Team Australia, switches across to the Forsyth Championship Racing Team this season. And now Oriol has his tyres
All right,
up to
hey guys, listen,
Michelle.
Mario Dominguez, who was knocked out early, came back, went up to the transporter to change, and I was expecting him to be back here in the pit so that I could get an update from him. But the official word is that he went up to the transporter, he never returned, he had left the Long Beach Grand Prix.
Through 7th battle all the way down to Graham Rahal in 7th position is a train of cars, and all these guys are hungry. This is a good motor race.
Yeah, it certainly is indeed, but still Bourdais well out in front. He's got about an 18-second lead over this whole group of cars, and now that Oriol Servies has worked so hard to get that heat into the tyres, build up the air pressure inside those tyres. I think now we'll see he's able to stretch away just a little bit perhaps from Alex Tagliani and Justin Wilson in their battle for 2nd and 3rd, and then the 2 Team Australia cars right behind them.
This is phenomenal. I am loving that Oriol is now pulling away. He was 0.2 of a lap quicker than Alex Tagliani on that last lap. It has not taken him long at all to get up to speed. This is a phenomenal story right here, Jeremy.
Isn't it just? He's a great young man, is Oriol Servies, and he's been patiently running around the last couple of weeks. But in actual fact, he said, I think yesterday morning, he said, I'm not even going to bother going to Houston. I'm not a good spectator. I think he had a good time with us in the commentary booth last week, but that's not something he wants to do. He wants to be driving a race car. He said, I'm not a good spectator. I either want to be in the race car or not at the racetrack at all, in which case I'll be watching on TV. But we've got, 41 laps in the books, and Bourdais well out in front. Here again is this battle on board the CDW Eurosport car of Justin Wilson, a 6'4" Englishman, and he's made great progress in the early stages, struggled through practice and qualifying. Well, started on the 7th position on the grid, but now he's got himself up to 4th in the early stages. He leapfrogged several guys, certainly Rahal and Pagenaud, by virtue of the fact that Justin was able to do one more lap on that first set of tyres and that first tank of fuel, and that extra lap enabled him to leapfrog the cars, as I say, particularly of Rahal and Pagenaud.
And Will Power as well, of course. And now he definitely looks like he's being held up by his Eurosports teammate, Alex Tagliani, who's really outclassed him all weekend. So it's good to see Justin back on form. He certainly has a balance on this race car that he likes, and just judged by how close he's been running to Alex for how many laps now, he definitely has a slightly quicker race car. So it's going to be up to him to try and find a clean way by. The last thing you want to do is have any sort of contact with your teammate, but I'm absolutely convinced that Justin's not going to be content to sit behind looking at his teammate's gearbox for too much longer.
I think you're right. And Justin, he came in, made his pit stop on the same lap as Will Power, but either the in lap or the out lap or a combination of both. He was able to leapfrog Power as well as the 2nd Team Australia car of Pagenaud and the rookie Graham Rahal as well, the 2 rookies, Pagenaud and Rahal as well. And here he is again on board that car, and Justin has used not very much of his Cosworth power to pass. He's still got 44 seconds worth left out of the 60. Alex Tagliani, meanwhile, we saw him use it a couple of laps ago in a vain attempt to get past Oriol Servies, and Tagliani now has only 18 seconds worth left.
Tagliani's always been one of the drivers known as a little bit trigger happy with his push to pass. Since they first introduced this rule in preseason testing, he's always just, give me more, I want more. He just loves hitting that button, and he is the driver with the least Cosworth power to pass left in his engine. So he's going to have to be very careful how he uses it.
If you're not familiar with the Cosworth power to pass feature, the button on the steering wheel, when you press that button, it gives you an extra 300 RPMs, about an extra almost an inch of boost pressure on these turbocharged engines. It's worth about 50 horsepower, so it takes it up from 750 to 800 horsepower, and you have 1 minute's worth, 60 seconds worth to use whenever you like during the course of this 1 hour and 40 minute race. This man, Sebastian Bourdais, he's running serenely out in front. We heard his race engineer Craig Hampson say just before the pit stop that Sebastian was out there cruising, and he's cruising so much he hasn't even used the power to pass.
I know that the likes of Neil Mickelwright, who's the Vice President of Operations of Forsyth Championship Racing, does not like the fact that he can say Sebastian is just out there cruising, because this man, his man, Oriol Servia, second in this motor race right now, actually running slightly quicker than Sebastian Bourdais, 0.3 of a lap quicker on that last lap, and unfortunately he's got a 16-second gap to the race leader.
He needs a full course caution, doesn't he, Oriol Servia? I think he's perhaps got a car that he might have something conceivably for Sebastian Bourdais, but with that 16-second deficit to make up, he's going to have a hard time doing that unless there is a full course caution, because there is no doubt that Bourdais is out there just running around holding his own. There's no traffic really to speak of. There's one car there in the far distance. I think that's Matt Halliday on the tail end of the lead lap in the 42 below car of Conquest Racing. And Matt's done a nice job this weekend as well. I think he was perhaps struggling a little bit in his first pit stop. His last lap wasn't terribly swift either, but overall Matt is doing a good job making his Champ Car debut last week, and that whole deal was done only a couple of days before that first race. So Matt Halliday is running in 14th, and ahead of him on the racetrack is Robert Dornbos, who had that miscue in the pits during that first round we saw a little while ago.
Yeah, very slow pit stop there, and he was running very competitively. Of course, he did try that move on Graham Rahal for 5th place early in the race, but a hold up in pit lane has cost him. He is now running down in 13th behind Catherine Legg.
Bill Stevens is on the pit lane.
Servia, I just spoke to Paul Gentilozzi again, and the wheels are turning in that pit. They're looking at fuel mileage very carefully. Moments ago, they said to Tags, go for it. Marty.
With Neil Mickelwright on the Oriol Servia car, and they indeed do have one more stop, like Jan said, between lap 59 and 64, somewhere in there. So they actually are in sequence with everyone else. They think they'll pit at the same time.
They hear it from the pit lane, so it's going to be a fascinating end to this motor race. And we've seen just the one brief full course caution in the early stages. That was when Mario Dominguez found the tyre wall in turn 9. Since then we've been green, in stark contrast to the early stages of the first race of the season in Las Vegas 1 week ago. We had all sorts of cautions in the early stages, and then from there we went to the end of the race. But I tell you what, we've got this great battle here building up still between the two Eurosport teammates, Alex Tagliani ahead of Justin Wilson, and it's certainly great to see Justin Wilson and particularly his car come alive in the race, having struggled thus far through last weekend and the early part of this weekend.
Yeah, it really is. He's kind of relishing this opportunity to try and get himself onto the podium. Like you said, Jeremy, a lot of high expectations coming into this season. Brand new DP01 chassis to play with, and Justin certainly a very quick pedaler, but Vegas did not go his way. His race ended prematurely after struggling all weekend with a mechanical failure, and but he's definitely looking back on form so far this race.
Yeah, great to see. There's Will Power, who was a dominant performer in Las Vegas. He came away with his, not really overdue perhaps, but certainly a very, very well-earned maiden Champ Car victory for the 26-year-old Aussie. Toowoomba, Queensland, he calls home, because now lives in Indianapolis, and he came here via way of Europe, spent several years racing in Formula 3, and then the World Series by Renault Series in Europe. And Will Power has really taken to these DP01s like a duck to water. A great performance in Las Vegas. Friday too here is absolutely magnificent. It looks like Bourdais had everybody covered in Friday qualifying, and up until the final lap of the session, Bourdais had done 4 laps quicker than anybody else, and then on the very final lap on black tyres, incidentally, not the softer red compound tyres from Bridgestone, Power just put in an absolute stunner. He said the car had been quick, but he hadn't got the best out of it. Well, he sure did get the best out of it on that final lap of qualifying on Friday. Took away the provisional pole position that gained him 1 championship point. And yesterday, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot to choose between himself and Sebastian Bourdais. In fact, just over 1/10 of a second in qualifying, but it was Bourdais who turned the tables and took away the pole position. But all our eyes right now are on this man, Justin Wilson. Just a brilliant job in the race this afternoon. He's worked together with his race engineer, which is Mike Talbot, who was previously the data guy at Newman Haas Racing. Last year he was a kind of a second engineer on the Eurosport, the ZDW car for the Eurosport team for Justin Wilson. And I think it's fair to say that team might be lacking a little bit of engineering depth over the weekend. I actually heard yesterday that there was some talks going on with Maurice Nunn, Mo Nunn, formerly the Ensign fame in Formula One. He's moved recently to Southern California, lives down in the San Diego area, and he's here with an old buddy of his with whom he was involved in the Ensign team back in the 1970s. And Maurice was certainly taking a very close interest in proceedings the last couple of days, a couple of nice chats with him, and there is some talk that perhaps Maurice, who of course has worked with every sort of, not only with his own Formula One team, but he's worked with Target Chip Ganassi Racing, he's worked with Emerson Fittipaldi, with Mario Andretti, some of the greats of the sport, and he's a very accomplished race engineer. I think there's no doubt that Maurice could add a lot to that team.
Yeah, he certainly could, and like you say, he did run his own Champ Car team, and he's a bit of a legend within the sport. His engineering knowledge and prowess is known far and wide as Mo Nunn, so it would be fantastic if he were to come back to the sport and offer what he could to that team.
The only thing, he's an abrasive character is old Maurice, and it's basically his way or the highway. He's not really somebody who works particularly well with other engineers, but I think so that he could do some good for Justin Wilson. But here's a glance back a little bit farther down the order. That is Bruno Junqueira. They're running a very steady 8th place at the moment, and look how he's closing in on the tail end of that big group of cars. Bruno's been turning some very consistent laps in the last recent stages of the race, and he's certainly closed down that gap to Graham Rahal, who's
Bruno had a great run last week as well until they had a fueling issue at the end of the race. He still wound up finishing 7th. This weekend they have struggled with problems with the fuel because they would hit the pedal and it wouldn't have full pedal, or sometimes they would hit it and the throttle would stick. But so far, everything's been great in the race for Bruno. He's hung in there. This is one of his best racetracks too. Would love to get another podium today, but he has a long way to go. Bill?
That's one thing a driver never wants to hear or experience is a full throttle stick in the throttle pedal. It's a frightening thing to happen. If you remember last year in the Houston Grand Prix, the scene of our next race next weekend, Alex Tagliani had a throttle pedal stick full open. Now it wasn't a mechanical problem, it was actually the motor for his drink bottle had come loose and fallen in between his heel rest and the pedal and locked it in full throttle position, and that sent him into the wall under a safety car, no less. So it's a very scary thing, and hopefully we don't see any issues with that on Bruno's car through the course of this event.
There we are, briefly on board there with Oriol Servia. Just look at the gap there from Sebastian Bourdais, who turned into turn 1. And the previous clip was Oriol Servia coming out of the hairpin. You can see he was waiting. The whole length of Shoreline Drive, which there was one of the lap cars, a couple of the lap cars in the air. Finally, is Oriol Servia, 20.1 seconds the gap as they came across start-finish line. And Bourdais is just leaving everybody firmly in his dussies. A couple of laps ago, he set a new fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 9.256. His following lap was a 1 minute 9.3, and this lap was a 1 minute 9.284. Just stunning pace from the McDonald's car at Human House Racing and Sebastian Bourdais.
It truly is hard to fathom what he is capable of doing in these Champ cars. I mean, he's some 1.2 seconds a lap faster than Oriol Servia right now, the second fastest runner, who is pulling away from third place Alex Tagliani. The gap about 2 seconds at present as they come up on some lap traffic. Now this is Dan Clark in the Team Minardi car. This could hurt Oriol just a little bit. This is a bit of a tricky section. Not really any room for him to get by. Dan will have to pull over and let him by on the straightaway. They come out of the hairpin now. That will have let, and there you go, Dan moving over, very sportsmanlike, but that will have let Alex and company probably catch up just a tiny little bit, Jeremy.
Yeah, you can see Dan there pull back onto the racing line, but I think he's made his intentions clear now for Oriol Servia that he will leave the door open for Oriol to make that pass going down into turn 1. Heads up driving there from Dan Clark. That's good to see. We haven't always said that over the last year or so for this very talented, I believe, young Englishman. He tended to be a little bit headstrong, but that was certainly heads up driving.
Yeah, very courteous, very sportsmanlike as we're on board again with Oriol so close to the walls here around Long Beach. You really have to use every inch of racetrack you're given and not an inch more, or else it will end in disaster. But this is the man who has mastered this track probably better than anyone I've ever witnessed. I know, being only 20, I haven't seen too many Long Beach Grand Prix. The race is older than I, but he has just been fantastic.
That's a good point. I've seen almost 20 of these things. That's a bit scary, but there is Sebastian Bourdais. His lead over Oriol Servia over 21 seconds. So 52 laps now in the books for this man alone at the moment, Sebastian Bourdais. We've got 36 minutes to go in this timed 1 hour and 40-minute race. So still plenty of time to go. And it's been an absolutely leisurely, I believe, relatively speaking, at least Sunday afternoon drive for Sebastian Bourdais. Not so much so for the rest of the guys, though. Oriol Servia still in second place. And the amazing thing is the metronomic consistency of this man. He's won this race the last 2 years. Last year dominantly from the pole. Usually set the fastest laps as well on each of those occasions. But this afternoon there is a last lap around. Oh, that's a pretty slow lap, 1 minute 9.5.
What was he doing? What a sandbagger.
Incredible. I mean, the only other two guys in the nines that time around, funnily enough actually, were Neil Jarni and Ryan de Yel in 9th and 10th places for the respective PKV and PCM cars.
It's good to see Ryan be able to get a little bit of pace out of that car as we watch Robert Dornbos circling through corner 4 right now.
Yeah, actually Ryan's just set the 3rd fastest lap in the race.
With Paul Stoddard. You had an impressive transition last week with Dornbos finishing on the podium, but what's going on with him today?
Yeah, he had a bit of a stall there in the pit stop, and it's cost us a bit of time, but we've still got 35 minutes to go. Dan had an incident where he went off as well and had to be started, so not one of our better days, but hey, that's motor racing, and as I say, 35 minutes to go, anything can still happen.
Wow.
Thanks, Paul, guys. Back to you.
Thanks, Michelle. And there was the full course yellow, we believe, is about to come out, or is it? It's not been called as yet, but there is a whole metro safety team in the turn 8 area. Simon Pagenaud, the rookie driver, has put that car in the tyre wall. We haven't got, yes we have, finally now. We have gone full course yellow, and this is exactly what Oriol Servia and the rest of the guys needed. But Bourdais is... we're going to be making pit stops, I'm sure, under this yellow flag period. And of course the pits are now closed, so Bourdais is not going to be able to come onto pit lane and make his stop before anybody else gets there. Everybody's going to pack up behind the safety car, and only then will the pits be open, and then it puts the pressure on the pit crews. And this is a team sport. I think it's great.
Absolutely. I mean, it's got to be frustrating for Sebastian, but to, like you say, for this really to come down to the pit crews. But it's hard for him to really be too upset. He was about a second a lap faster than anybody on the track. So even if he does get past in the pits, I don't have too much concern about him not finding his way back to the front of the field. The worry is more from the 2nd through 7th battle. Your Oriol Servia, Alex Tagliani, Justin Wilson in 4th, Will Power 5th, Graham Rahal 6th. Full course caution here in Long Beach. Coming down to the pit stop, Sebastian Bourdais will lead them into the pits.
There is Sebastian Bourdais. He's just got a call over the radio from his pit crew saying this is going to turn it into a pit crew competition. And that's exactly what it is, because as you can see, he's lined up already behind a Toyota Camry pace car here. No one else even in sight, and we've been under caution already for a minute or so. Everybody else, they're just cruising around trying to save some fuel. They don't want to burn. The less fuel they burn up, the less they're going to put in to the car during a pit stop. But the good news for Sebastian Bourdais is that there is at least one lapped car between himself and the rest of the field. Not so much for Bourdais perhaps, but for that Newman Haas Racing team as we get ready for what will be a crucial round of pit stops. Pits are now open here in Long Beach, and this is going to be absolutely incredible. The focus is going to turn from the drivers to the crews on pit lane, and they practice their pit stops all the time. Pedro Campizano is the crew chief for the car number 1 of Sebastian Bourdais, but the pit crew there is actually led by the outside front tyre changer, and that is Norm Hornicek. He's been there with that team a long time. And the pits are now open, and there's a lap car of Alex Figge in between Bourdais and the rest of the pack, and Bourdais is taking full advantage. He flew around the hairpin, and he was able to pull about 2 seconds over the rest of the field, and that's going to give a nice little cushion to his team. Down the pit lane, Bill.
This should be a routine pit stop for one of the all-time great pit crews in Champ Car history. Watch them go to work, just like butter. 4 tires, let's go to Marty.
Meanwhile, for Oriol Servia, they said this needs to be a very clean and smooth stop, a chance to gain some time on the track. He said at the very end of the run, he was starting to lose grip a little bit, taking a little longer for the fuel. He will erase that huge lead, and I believe hold on to second spot as he leaves pit road.
Thank you, Marty. Yes, I think he will. There is Simon Pagenaud being towed back towards the pit lane by the whole Matro safety crew. And in the meantime, it was Tristan Gomandy actually did not come onto pit lane, we believe. He stayed out and still will therefore be in the lead of the race. Here they're coming down towards turn one after their pit stops. Still same order for the first three there, which will be Bourdais, and then in second place, Oriol Servia, and in third place, Alex Tagliani. But in fourth place there was Will Power, who apparently got out ahead of Justin Wilson. And I wonder then whether in that first round of pit stop, maybe the R-Sport team tried to save a little bit of fuel, but a bit of time by not putting quite as much fuel on board that number 9 car of CDW, which only really means he needs to take on a little bit more fuel at this second pit stop.
Yeah, short filling the car, putting a little less fuel in, save the time on pit road. And you know what? Even though he's only lost one position, it's still a gain for them because they were lucky enough to have a yellow flag come out. That eliminates a little bit of the sacrifice of short filling on that first stop, because obviously the field running under caution will mean that they're not losing as much time as under green flag conditions. So we see Sebastian Bourdais leading the field right now from Oriol Servia. We believe Tristan Gomandy has gone into pit lane. Actually, here he is right now, going very slowly down the front straight. Definitely a problem with the PKV Racing entry here. The pay-by-touch car can't quite figure out what it is from here.
No, and of course there we are on board with Oriol Servia then in second place ahead of Tagliani, and behind him the cars streaming through. And Tristan Gomandy, I think, was not actually picked up by the pace car, and he came out of the hairpin that lap very, very slow. The marshals telling him to slow down even more. He's really doing a walking pace, so you can see there the pace car actually had gone around Gomandy and has picked him up as the race leader. But Gomandy certainly is on a different pit stop strategy than everybody else. His last pit stop was on lap 39, and with half an hour to go in this race, he's done 17 laps, so 20 odd laps to go. I don't know, if there's another caution period or two, it's not inconceivable that Tristan Gomandy might be able to get to the finish without another pit stop. And he's tucked in right there behind the pace car, trying to get a little bit of a draft, a little bit of slipstream, and again, just save some more fuel. It's not inconceivable.
No, it isn't, especially with a restart that opens up a lot of opportunity for moves to be made and then accidents to happen, thus causing another full course caution. So
cautions breed cautions, do they not?
They absolutely do. Just ask the Atlantic drivers in Vegas. Anyway, we won't go there, Jeremy. It's like you say, it's not inconceivable, especially with the infamous turn 1 here at Long Beach. But this will be Tristan's first rolling restart in the Champ Car World Series. He's probably not very used to them coming from a European background. The lights are off on the Toyota safety car. We are going green this time by.
Yes, we are. And Tristan Gomandy started in French Formula Renault. He won the French Formula 3 Championship in 2002, following the footsteps and likes of Sebastian Bourdais and Alain Prost and many, many others as well. He won Macau, the street circuit in Macau that year as well. Ready to go back to green. It is Tristan Gomandy for PKV Racing, who is going to lead the field to the green flag car number 22, the pay-by-touch Mega Spiera car, and a great restart by Tristan Gomandy, and right behind him was Sebastian Bourdais. We see the car streaming across the start-finish line, and down to turn 1 is Gomandy, who is clearly down to the inside, thinks about Tagliani making a move on Oriol Servia. Not close enough, James.
He certainly didn't think about it, and it was close. It was one of those touch-and-go things. Discretion got the better part of valor on that one. I think that was a good call from Alex. He didn't quite have it. We might have someone down in the pits.
Marty Snyder there.
Hey, Wally, no word on what happened on the restart there with Oriol Servia, but they did tell him about the fuel, that he is good to go to the end. They want him to save a little bit initially, but he will get the green light midway through this run to attack Sebastian Bourdais as best he can.
Trying to get another call there from Bill Stevens, but yeah, as best he can, I think, are the operative words there from Marty Snyder, because already there is Oriol Servia. Bill Stevens.
This could be for Oriol Servia, and I want to remind you guys, this is the second time in his career that he's pinch hit for a driver who had a back injury. Remember a couple of years ago, he got in there for Bruno Junqueira, who was injured at the Indy 500 and drove for Newman Haas, and now for the second time in his career, he's coming off the bench, and what a job he's doing today.
Isn't he just? There he goes, flashes across the stripe one more time, down Shoreline Drive, the fastest part of the racetrack, almost 180 miles an hour, then heavy braking for the second gear left-hander in turn 2. That is the red and yellow McDonald's car of Sebastian Bourdais in second place now behind Tristan Gomondi. And there here is Oriol Servia in third place, a magnificent third for car number 3 in Forsyth Championship Racing. Behind Oriol, Alex Tagliani, Will Power, then Justin Wilson, Bruno Junqueira, Neil Jarni is in 8th place ahead of Graham Rahal, and then Catherine Legbrand.
I definitely am, and I've caught up with Jimmy Vassar, who's a gambling man. Jimmy, what's the game plan here with leaving Tristan out?
Well, we need 5 more laps of yellow, we think, with the mileage he's making to make it to the end. So we're taking a chance. You know, we're kind of really weren't going anywhere where we were, and you know, Tristan's a rookie. Give him a little chance to lead this thing, get a little experience, and get that pay-by-touch car up there.
All right, Jimmy Vassar, you saw get his final race here last year at Long Beach. He hasn't officially retired from racing, but we haven't seen him in a champ car in a year now.
No, James still racing occasionally in the Grand Am Series in sports cars. But James, your perspective on a rookie out in the lead of this race?
It's fantastic. I mean, he's now done 2 laps and kept 3-time champion Sebastian Bourdais at bay. I mean, Sebastian ran only 0.2 of a lap quicker on that one. He got a very good restart, his first shot at it. He managed to get a great run off that hairpin. He backed the field up well. He's doing everything very well, and all this is going to do is really, really boost his confidence. That's the biggest thing. He came in very late, only got the Laguna Seca 2-day test under his belt before showing up in Vegas, and so for him to come out here and lead this race, very big confidence booster, and hopefully will help him grow as a driver with this team.
Absolutely right, James Hinchcliffe. And Tristan Gomondi, he really struggled at Laguna Seca, Master Raceway Laguna Seca. It's a very physical track, and he was a spent horse.
We've been talking about fuel strategy all day long, and you have to admit that Sebastian Bourdais' team has really hit the nail right on the head. But Jan and Wally, you could perhaps talk about the fact that when you've got a commanding lead in a race, you're not going through the debating that the other teams have been going through today who are trying to catch him.
So there is Tristan Gomondi with his fellow Frenchman Sebastian Bourdais right behind him. He's done a super job as Tristan Gomondi. Quite tall for a racing driver, over 6 foot tall, and Sebastian Bourdais is using the Cosworth power to pass. Is he close enough to dive down the inside? No, he is not. Gomondi also used the Cosworth power to pass in the latter stages of the straightaway there. That was just enough to fend off the advances of Sebastian Bourdais. So heads up driving for both those guys. And Tristan Gomondi, you talked about it there, just giving him the opportunity to run out in front. And as I said, he was very much a spent force after that Laguna test. He was really struggling with the physical demands of these race cars. Of course, you don't have power steering. You don't have the well, you do have paddle shifts now, but there's a lot more physical, certainly. You don't have the G-forces and the braking, but the forces generated in turning the wheel on these cars is certainly more than a Formula 1 car. And Gomondi has had to improve his workout characteristics, really get himself a lot fitter to drive these cars. And you know, he was certainly struggling, I think, a little bit mentally coming into the season, but this will just give him a vast boost of confidence. And we're going to see whether he can take advantage of this going on down the next couple of races.
And he does certainly get a mega run off of that hairpin, and Sebastian last lap, he got on the push to pass quite late, and he's not even going to attempt it this lap because Tristan's run off the hairpin is very, very good. He's just really strong off that corner, and that is the key, as turn 1 is the best passing opportunity here. So he's keeping the 3-time champion at bay. He's just giggling in his helmet right now, Jeremy.
He sure is having a good time, I am sure. And the bad news for him, of course, is that that restart did not spur another caution period. So the farther we go here, perhaps the lesser the chance of having another full course caution, in which case he will have to bring that car number 22 onto pit lane for one more pit stop. But still, it's been a good day for him as well. And there is that battle a little bit back. So it's Tristan Gomondi leads with 61 laps in the books here in Long Beach with 22 minutes remaining. Will Power in the best placed of the Team Australia cars, his teammate Simon Pagenaud. He was restarted, by the way, so he is back out in the fray. He's shown us 4 laps off the pace. We've got 13 cars on the lead lap, the last of those being Matt Halliday, then Dan Clark and Alex Figge 1 lap down. Simon Pagenaud 4 laps down on the field, and in the meantime we're on board with Justin Wilson. You can see he's lost a little bit of ground here to Will Power, and he has Bruno Junqueira breathing down his neck as well, does Justin Wilson. That is a battle for 6th and 7th. who are on board with Oriole, running in third place right now, and Gomondy another very, very quick lap. Marty Snyder with Neil Mickelwright in the Forsyth Championship Racing pit.
And me too, guys. There's no grumpiness down here in the Oriole Serbia pits. I tell you what, fantastic job so far. Do you have enough tires, though, to catch the guys in front of you?
Well, you know, I mean, I think that the tyres that we have are just as good as anybody in front of us. Obviously, Bourdais has had quite the pace today. Gomondy currently leaving is going to have to be stopping here fairly soon for gas, so we'll see when he stops, and there's nothing holding us up. We'll do the best we can.
How proud are you of Oriole right now?
I'm very proud of Oriole, and very proud of the whole team for recovering. Obviously, devastated by PT having his accident and not being with us. Hope he gets well soon.
All right, currently in third, trying to get back up to the front, maybe past Bourdais.
Yeah, I think you'd be lucky to catch and pass him, because you can see the gap has built up between the second and third place cars for right now. But both Gomondy and Bourdais just turned their best laps on the race, and that was a new fastest lap by Sebastian Bourdais in second place. And as I was talking before those pit lane interviews, I reckon the PKV team has told Tristan Gomondy that there's no hope of making it to the finish, so just go as fast as you can, learn as much as you can, and we'll take our medicine. And as Craig Hampson rightly said, he'll probably end up in 12th or 13th place, but that misses the point entirely, because as James Hitchcliffe said a little while ago, the whole point of this exercise was take a little bit of a gamble. If there had been another full course caution or two, they could have been looking very, very good indeed. So it was certainly a legitimate call by that team, PKV Racing, not to make the pit stop, but they had the added benefit, and that if Gomondy run out alone in front of this field, and he's taken full advantage, and now he peels off into pit lane. So that was a job done there for Tristan Gomondy in every aspect you could think of at all.
Well, you know, they're gambling on the fuel, hoping for yellows. Now they're only going to take 4 seconds of fuel. Essentially, in the flash note, you can see no tires going on the car. Looks a lot longer than 4 seconds, but he's away.
Yeah, and it was a little bit longer. I think that's the first, if there was some sort of a problem there with the refueling, that's probably the first one we've had all weekend long. So kudos there to Champ Car and the guys at Land Motorsports Technologies and all these teams for getting over those problems that were afflicting just about everybody 1 week ago in Las Vegas, just ironing out the bugs on this new DP01 chassis, which this weekend has shown, I'd say, pretty good, very good reliability, quite frankly, James.
I'd say it passed the test. I mean, actually, we saw in that overhead there was a car ran a bit wide in the first corner, but back to the car. It's done a stellar job. It's really held up here, and I think it's been a safe machine. It's been a very, very fast machine, and after a few issues in Las Vegas, I think it's been a very reliable machine. As we saw a car moving slowly on the track. Is that Dornbos?
Yeah, I think it is Robert Dornbos. He's was shown in 11th place, and clearly has some sort of a problem. Maybe stuck in gear. Sounded like he wasn't perhaps shifting there, but clearly not up to full speed. And we hope he's going to keep out of the way, that Muirman's car. The Minardi Team USA, owned of course by Paul Stoddart, is one of the owners there, along with Keith Wiggins and Cedric the Entertainer, still on board. He's actually not here this weekend because he's making a new movie, but Cedric is still very much a part of this team. Meanwhile, usual order has been restored at the front of the field. There is Sebastian Bourdais, another new fastest lap of the race. The first man in the 1:08, 1 minute 08.844 for Sebastian Bourdais, and he wants to get as many points out of this weekend as he possibly can.
I still love how it's Tristan Gomondy's fault, though, for using up the best of Sebastian's tires, according to Craig Hampson. But I don't think it's held him back too much. As you say, fastest lap of the race, a 1:08.844, just an absolutely blistering pace. Sebastian Bourdais being chased by Oriole Serbia, but he seems to be in control of the race and on course to make 3 in a row here in Long Beach.
So there is car number 14. That is Robert Dornbos from Holland. He has indeed a gearbox problem, we are told, as he pulls that car onto pit lane to retire. Shame for him. He was running inside the top 10, had a fabulous run a week ago in Las Vegas. Got that car up to a magnificent podium finish on his debut in the Champ Car World Series. The first man on the podium in his first ever race since Nigel Mansell way back in 1993. Not able to reproduce that this weekend, but still a good weekend's work for Robert Dornbos. Again, he's learned a lot, and prior to that stunningly quick lap, well, another one there right behind it, another 1:08 for Sebastian Bourdais, but prior to that lap everybody in the entire field, except for Mario Dominguez, who was out on the very first lap, and Matt Halliday, they were all lapped between 1 minute 09.1 and 1 minute 9.9. So 3/4 of a second in lap time covering the entire field here in Long Beach. Shows the parity of these cars, James.
It shows the parity and the competitiveness of this field. I mean, you've got a bunch of different teams, drivers from a bunch of different experience. You got rookies, you got guys who've done 200 plus starts, and right now they're all running within 3/4 of a second. It's just fantastic, especially this late stage in the race. Tires are running low, track's really rubbered in, but fuel loads are different. It shows how competitive this series really is and how tough it is to be at the front of this field, which just proves why this man, Sebastian Bourdais with Newman Haas Lanigan Racing, is just the class of the field. He is ahead of everyone. It's so impressive what he is able to do.
Yeah, he really is a talent, and we talked about it before. He had a test with the Red Bull Formula 1 Toro Rosso Formula 1 team towards the end of last year, and he very much impressed Gerhard Berger, who is the team principal there at Toro Rosso, and I can tell you Berger is not a man that is easily impressed, and he's been a dream for Sebastian Bourdais to get into Formula 1, and who knows whether that dream will be fulfilled in the years to come. But right now he's dedicated to Champ Car, and is that Tristan Gomondi?
Pacific Coast Motorsports. I can't see if it's a number 29 or 28. It looks like, is that Figgy? Or is that Diol? It is Figgy, the American flag on the helmet there. You can see Alex Figgy, number 29, in the wall hard in turn 9, end of the back straight. Very unfortunate. Could you imagine if Tristan had been able to let that fuel go a few laps longer, he would have had his caution, because this is a fairly major impact and could very well take 4 or 5 laps to clean up, which is what Jimmy Vasser said they needed.
Oh, yes, indeed. Ifs, ands, and buts of motor racing, but I still reckon it's mission accomplished for Gomondi and PKV Racing, because Gomondi knows that he can mix it with the best. He was running with the very best, in fact ahead of the very best, ahead of Sebastian Bourdais, and relatively comfortably in so doing. And Gomondi still has the 4th best lap of the race, and that is no mean feat on its own. And if he'd had to save fuel and just sort of try and keep Bourdais behind him, he wouldn't have had an opportunity to really push hard and push himself to the limits. But as we've seen before, Gomondi has good experience on the street circuits, and winning at Macau, that is a big feather in anyone's cap. That was of course in Formula 3 in 2002.
The Formula 3 race in Macau is the crown jewel of Formula 3 racing, and of course that's a formula that is competed in all over the world. There's Formula 3s in almost every country and continent that houses motorsports. And so what this caution has done, though, is really set up an exciting finish. Champ Car this year, they run off timed races. It's no longer by laps, and we're looking at just 9.5 minutes left to go. So by the time this crew, the Homacho safety team, gets this Pacific Coast Motorsports car cleaned up, we're going to have, I'm thinking, 2-3 minutes left in this race, and that's going to close the gap back, allow Oriol Servia to maybe take a run at Sebastian Bourdais. A few laps to go. Who knows what could happen.
There we go. There is, you can see Alex Figgy there. That's good. He's waving to the crowd, and as you were saying, James, he's on the backboard as it's part of the seat in his new generation Champ Cars, and they're just taking all the precautions they possibly can. If there's any question marks whatsoever, then they won't take any gambles, and they will take Alex out on that backboard, and they'll look him, give him a good thorough looking over. But that was a pretty hearty thumbs up wave, I think, to the crowd down there in turn 9.
I think it'll be okay. Like you say, it was a precautionary thing, but Long Beach is one of those tracks that it can bite you. I mean, it caused an injury to an Atlantic racer. Mike Forrest had a back injury here last year in the Atlantic season opener, and then of course Paul Tracy this morning.
He did also last year in the Grand Am. Mamo Gidley had a big crash here as well in his Grand Am car. So these are very unforgiving walls. And that was Craig Hampson, I think, on the radio to Craig Hampson Racing. And Michelle is
the
out
top 10 and an impressive finish last weekend. How happy are you about how this team has come together?
We got 2 to go, and let's see if we can get the 7th place car to be a bowling pin, a bowling ball, and take out the top 5. We get them both on a podium. So we'll see what happens.
All right, thanks a lot.
There's Dale Coyne there, over the enthusiasm, over with the upbeat thinking there, at least from his perspective. But see, it's another very good day. He had both of his cars in the top 6 last time out in Las Vegas, and now both cars in the top 9. Junqueira in 6th place and Catherine Legg in 9th. And yes, they've both been fairly unobtrusive, but let me tell you, Catherine Legg has set the 6th fastest lap of the race, and that's exactly what she did last year ago. She was quick in the late stages, so any Any thoughts or concerns about Catherine's fitness? Well, he can throw those out on the window. Well, now, here we go. The safety car has pulled off. Sebastian Bourdais gets a great jump. He comes across the start-finish line. Oriol Serving is on the Cosworth Power to pass. So is Sebastian Bourdais. So are all the race leaders, with the exception of Alex Tagliani there in third place. And look to the inside, there was thinking Justin Wilson about making a move, but no, Will Power cuts off that as they go into turn one. The same order: Bourdais, Serbia, Tagliani, Power, and Wilson, the top five. Then behind them, Junqueira, Jani, Rahal, Leg, and Deyel on board here with Justin Wilson, with just 1 minute 10 seconds to go. Just one more lap after this one, James.
They will come around and get the white flag, meaning 1 to go this time by. Oriol Servia made a good gap as Justin Wilson takes a look down the inside of Will Power into turn 6. Not going to make that stick. Oriol Servia is out of push to pass. Alex Tagliani has just 4 seconds. Will Power 10. Justin Wilson 19.
Marty Snyder is in the pit lane.
I'm ready, Bill. I apologize. Will Power's had a terrific day. Big shout out to those guys, and they've stayed in the top 5 all day long. Will talk to me about championship. Not so much trying to win this race, but focusing on the championship this year. He set himself in a good position.
He certainly has that. Talking about Will Power there of Team Australia. He won the race 1 week ago in Las Vegas, now running in 4th place. That would certainly be a very good afternoon. Justin Wilson, we're on board with there. He is using the Cosworth Power to pass, but so in a defensive mode is Will Power, and he looks at the inside. Down is so much for conservatism. There goes Will Power with a brilliant move down the inside of Alex Tagliani to take over another podium position.
That was fantastic. He got on it, I think, initially in defense because Justin Wilson was very close to him, but he managed to get a good enough run off that final corner to get a run on Alex Tagliani. And look at the gap he's pulled out. Alex going slow. Justin Wilson looking down the inside of turn 6, and he will make that stick, I think, if he can get on the power without too much wheel spin. I think he's done it. The two of them are going to drag into the 8th corner. You cannot really pass there. Behave, Alex. Very well done. Tragic for Alex Tagliani. 2 lost spots on the final lap of the race.
Popped up on the curve there on the inside of turn 8 did Justin Wilson, but he got a good run off the corner, and I think he's going to be able to hold on to that position, and he would love nothing better to get the better of his teammate. But it's all about this man today, isn't it? Sebastian Bourdais has been the class of the field. It looks like Simon Pagenaud will get the fastest lap, but everything else, Sebastian Bourdais across, he takes the checkered flags. Sebastian Bourdais win number 24 in his career, and once again a brilliant performance by the entire Newman House Racing team, and it is yet another victory, a 3rd in a row here in Long Beach for that man Sebastian Bourdais.
And you know what, that was an absolutely storming performance as he's going to do his trademark donuts. Here he goes. It'll be the first time he's done them in the DP01. How can he get them done? Oh, not quite as tight. Okay, he's starting to get there. He's got a bit of work to do, but you know what? I've got a feeling this won't be the last time, I should say, we see Sebastian Bourdais doing donuts in this car.
I think not. He came away from Las Vegas saying, we had the worst weekend I can ever remember. He said after Las Vegas, when he crashed both in qualifying and the race. It was his worst ever qualifying position in the Champ Car World Series. He started 16th on the grid, and as we said, he didn't go any better in the race. He had a couple of punctures earlier on, and then he crashed out of the race as well. So very few points for Sebastian Bourdais last weekend, but he's put that to rights, and he will vault well up the order in the championship standings. I think it will still certainly be Will Power who leads the points, leaving today's race and going on to Houston next week. But it's still been a great effort by Sebastian Bourdais, and he's going to treat the crowd down there in turn 7 as well. He's getting pretty good at these donuts now, Sebastian Bourdais, mind you, with all the experience he's had with that over the last 4 or 5 years. It's not surprising. They started off fairly damp croissants, they were widely termed, rather than donuts. But just another great drive by Sebastian Bourdais. He won, of course, the final race of last season in Mexico City. That was a 23rd win of his career in just 60 starts, and the winning percentage he has in the Champ Car World Series is just absolutely amazing. It's over 38% of his race starts results in a victory, and sure, he is with the best team. He's more than in turn 9. He's certainly with the best team in Champ Car racing.
Sorry, Jeremy, he stalled it. He has stalled his car. The crowd is loving it, though. Who cares? Race is over. His job is done. They're going to try and get him push started there and bring him into victory lane.
he won't be too disappointed with that, I'm sure, Sebastian Bourdais.
Rookie, who stalls? Come on, man. How many times have you done this?
Yeah, 24 times now, Sebastian Bourdais. Close to the 40% win percentage, just absolutely amazing. Even Michael Schumacher in Formula 1, he won 91 of his 249 starts in Formula 1, a winning percentage of 36.5. The all-time great, of course, Juan Manuel Fangio won 24 of his 49 starts in Formula 1, almost shy of 50%, half the races results in wins. But it's been just a great performance once again by Bourdais. And let's take our hats off to Oriol Servia. He steps in for the Indian PT and brings that 4-star championship racing car home in second place.
A brilliant drive from the seasoned veteran there in Oriol Servia. I don't think anybody can be disappointed with what he's done there. And Sebastian Bourdais pulling himself into victory lane.
Look at while we're waiting for the winners interview, let's have a look at what happened a little earlier this afternoon this morning, in fact, in the Atlantic race. Or not, as the case may be, sorry about that. But Sebastian Bourdais there, it's Billy Camphausen there, the terrier of the Champ Car World Series. He's been with these guys for well over 20 years. He helps the drivers get themselves unbolted. There's Cathy Lauderback, the PR person for Newman House Lanigan team. And Paul Newman is not here this weekend. He was driving one of his GT1 cars at Road Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, and they got a new exhaust system on that car for Paul Newman, and he was overcome a little bit by heat exhaustion. And at the age of 83, I think, Paul Newman, they thought he'd better have a good look at him at the hospital. So he was advised not to fly for a few weeks. So Paul missed the race last weekend. He's not here this weekend. He's got all his friends to relay the good information.
Well, and Bill, there's the celebration. This team certainly deserves it after the week they had last week at Las Vegas, a struggling week. Sebastian told me it was one of the worst weeks of his entire career. What a comeback, and all the hours this race team put in this week, getting this car ready to come here and try and win their third straight Long Beach race. What a comeback for you guys. How gratifying is that after the rough week you had last week at Las Vegas?
I guess everything that could happen to us in Vegas happened, and here the Magnus car already showed what it could do. And I can't thank these guys enough, because really they worked their tails off. They worked probably until midnight last night and woke up at 4 to get ready, and it's just unbelievable the hours that they put. So it's all to their benefits, really.
Tell me about the hairpin on the last restart, and is that one of the most dominant performances of your career?
I think we definitely put on a great show today, but it's true the last restart was a little, you get a lot of pickup, and once you get to that hairpin before the last restart, it's very slippery. So I really made sure I was going to slow down very much at the apex and get a good jump, and it worked out pretty good.
You took the week to drive here kind of to clear your mind. Your guys, however, worked very hard. I know you're proud of them and the effort they put in this weekend.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's all theirs. They worked so hard, and all winter it's been like that. And that Panos is not easy to put together, but they've done it.
3 straight Long Beach wins for Sebastian Bourdais.
Yeah, just a tremendous performance there. It's down to Cameron Steele with Oriol Servia, who again another brilliant run for the Spaniard, and he came to this weekend.
Yeah, it was a good way. I mean, on a restart there, something happened to the gears. I couldn't get first, so Alex went past, and then I think Justin got me when we were out in cold tyres. So it was a race where we just kept following people. We had the pace. I mean, if we hadn't lost that, I think we would have been able to give Sebastian a bit of a run for his money. But good on him. It's a good fight for the championship.
Take us back to the beginning of the race, the first lap, the first turn. What's going through your head?
Sebastian went early, which is really good, and he spread the field out to prevent any sort of incident in the first corner. And I wasn't up to sort of screw him over in the first corner. We just went in and just started the race. It was really event-free.
And that's the way we like it. Nice job today, Will.
Thank you.
Let's go to Cameron Steele.
Well, Bill Stevens, the man that really showed that he was ready to go. Unfortunately, Paul Tracy not able to race here today, but Oriol Servia coming with the goods. You've got to be very happy with that day.
Well, yeah, how many times I have to show that I'm ready to go? No, I did a great job, but nothing compared to what the team did. I had to adjust to the car, but at the end of the day, I'm a race car driver. The team had to adjust to me. They gave me a fabulous car, great pit stops, and to be honest, I had pretty big shoes to fill today. I mean, I know PT would have tried in the last restart to go for the win. I tried, but I couldn't do it. I'm just really, really happy to finish second, and I thank very much the team and Mr. Forsyth for trusting that I was going to do the job.
Definitely doing the job today. Oriol Servia, second place.
And it's been a fascinating afternoon here in Long Beach. Certainly, Sebastian Bourdais has been the class of the field, but James, a great view here of Long Beach and a very exciting event.
It's an exciting event, has been since the first time they ran here. A lot of good action all the way down to the last lap. That's the kind of racing that Long Beach produces. Really glad to see it here.
Yes, and the Team Australia, again, another very, very good performance. There have been all sorts of sideshows here, but it's all about Sebastian Bourdais. Ultimately, he was the class of the field this weekend. I've got to thank all our pit reporters this afternoon. We had Marty Snyder, Cameron Steele, Bill Stevens and Michelle Beisner. Some of the throws might have been messy, but we have to rely on the domestic broadcast. My thanks also, of course, to James Hinchcliffe here in the booth. He came off an Atlantic race this morning, finished in 7th place there. Alex Figge seems to be okay after his accident, but it's been a fascinating afternoon's racing, and we'll be back with you in 1 week's time in Houston, Texas. My name is Jeremy Shaw. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you then.